So, origin-wise, I read that you've always kind of had this idea, or at least the last 5-6 years, of wanting to capture Little India, the supermarket, like that atmosphere. Is that kind of where this started from, or where was the initial idea from for Samosas?
It was a mix of two things. I did want to do something always in Artesia, which is the Little India of Los Angeles, because it's a place I'd always go to when my parents came to town and visitors would come, and you go there for food, and you get your saris and your wedding jewelry hit there as well. Actually, I think me and my wife got wedding rings from there as well. Yeah. And I'd always been fascinated by that spot and wanting to do something there. And I'd always wanted to do a heist film as well. I had something that I'd written maybe like about 10 years ago, which was a heist on an ice cream van. So I wanted to do that lo-fi heist film where there was no guns and there was no car chases and no big techno stuff. Techno stuff? Techno dancing?
There's no techno dancing.
There's no techno dancing in this one. And so it was a mix of wanting to do those two things together that kind of, this time around, kind of coalesced.
Why this guy?
What?
Why this guy? I had to whisper.
Why this guy?
Yeah, because Venk came on board, that Vinny character was kind of, I'm guessing, the main character. It started out with that.
Yeah, because I started watching Venk's work, maybe like about 4 years ago. He started sending me some shorts that he was working on that he produced and was in, and I just fell in love with him in a platonic kind of way. And thought I would love this guy to be a lead in a film. And so I started, when I was writing the film, I started tailoring it towards Venk. And actually, the character was written as Vinny originally.
Venk.
Sorry, it was written as Venk, and now it's Venk. Thank you. You see, I'm getting confused. I don't even know what's real and what's fake. But just, I thought he'd be fantastic, and he was.
Why did you want to play yourself, Vinny, I guess?
No, I mean, I think there obviously were differences between the character, but I obviously saw myself written in there, or I kind of put myself in there. I mean, I think a few things, I think the reason why the whole thing happens in the first place is because the guy is still kind of in love with this person, and I definitely resonated with that, in terms of feeling like, oh man, like it's a shame that this relationship ended, but maybe in another world it could have happened. It could have still worked out. And so I really identified with that part of the character. And then I also just loved how Vinny's sort of the leader of this pack and how he tries to put everybody together to try and make it happen. And I find that for myself, just as an artist and as an entrepreneur trying to tell these stories, create businesses that can support stories, you very much also have to take on that kind of role where you're really the one pushing the thing forward. And I just loved Vinny's he's gonna do it no matter what, even if he has to come up with a few excuses to convince other people to help him out, right? Even if it is in the beginning kind of selfishly motivated, I think it does come from a good place at the end of the day. And I just deeply connected with that. And I remember feeling in the process of trying to make the film, it's hard to make a movie. There's challenges along the way, but I just remember telling Ravi, I was like, man, Ravi, I really hope we make this film just so that I can kind of embrace that part of myself that I feel like I don't get to show in other ways. So incredibly flattered that Ravi even thought about me, that he even was inspired by me is sort of a weird, I don't know how to really take that exactly. But it just felt like if this could happen, man, it could be really good. So really happy that we're here and that we made it.
What I love about the character, maybe this is, you can kind of touch on what attracted you for him being the role, is it's a go-getter character.
Right.
And earnest about it too. Like, he needs to get stuff done. The comedy almost comes about just from the circumstances rather than you playing that up. He's really wanting to do certain things. So is that what you saw in him? I mean, what did you see in this guy?
I think I saw somebody that was just primed and ready, you know what I mean? Kind of going, okay, it's time, and being on hold in some ways, waiting for that opportunity. And I think because the character of Vinny, not Venk, is just stuck, you know. It's like he knows he has it all, and he's just waiting for that thing that's going to ignite him, either an outside force or within himself. And in the film, it's clearly the recognition that he's in love with this woman, and if he's ever going to have a chance with her, he has to stop her engagement. And that's the thing that kind of clicks him off, and it clicks him off not just on the romance level, but also on his artistically, in terms of where he's at as well. Because when we meet the character to begin with, he's a rapper, but he's not rapping because he's lacking in confidence, and he's not sure about the way he's approaching the art form that he's doing. And in the whole process of doing the heist, he, in a weird way, discovers his voice. It doesn't become about the heist in the end. It doesn't become about the diamonds. It becomes about the fact that he discovers himself. And he discovers it through the people that he gets to come with him as well. He finds that community. And I think it is fascinating in terms of making a film and these characters doing a heist, what the parallels are as well, because it's a ridiculous undertaking to make a film or to rob some diamonds from a grocery store. You're asking for trouble, you know what I mean? And
so true.
And you have to bring people along to come along with this mad journey too, in the same way that these guys in this heist movie have to find people that are crazy enough to come along.
So this might be a little bit of a bigger question about being able to make specifically a film that can be South Asian specific, characters, crew. Obviously, you've seen the industry change from where you might have been the only South Asian anywhere in the vicinity to now making a fully fledged film that I think crosses the barriers completely. What's that been like, seeing the change? I mean, you and Mira have seen, you know, real TV, real films change over the years. How important is it being able to make a film like this now?
It is interesting. It's like I remember when I was like a series regular on a couple of shows, and at that time, in the early part of it, I was the only South Asian actor on a series regular on TV. And now when you look at it,
the very first right?
I don't know, there might have been, I think maybe Bernard White was maybe on a show, and there was always people before them, and I think it's always important to recognize that you're never the first. There was always somebody before you. And while people might say, oh, you're a trailblazer, there was a trailblazer that came before you that kind of opened the path to begin with. But now it's so... It's amazing. It's amazing to see so many South Asians on television and making films and having that opportunity now. And I think obviously as a society we've had a little bit of a wake up over the past kind of 4 or 5 years, and so it's increased even more so. And so it's exciting to see all these voices. And what's also interesting as well in terms of this kind of film is that we can now make a film which doesn't have to be about being South Asian in America. It doesn't have to be about, am I Indian, am I American, does the world understand me, will they accept me, will they not accept me? We could just make a movie which is a heist film and a love story, and it happens to be set in the South Asian community, and it's still accessible to both the South Asians here and to the general population of America as well. So we couldn't have done this, I don't think, maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
I'm going to ask you the same question, Venk, because the way you were found is so unique with Nick and how that kind of just blew up, and now you're kind of everywhere. Or maybe a better question was, have you felt that you were making a change even by just all that you're getting to do on film? And as much as Ravi may be that generation that opened many doors, you're blowing the damn doors wide open by what you're getting to accomplish that other people have not even been able to touch upon. I've been excited by some of the crazy roles you've gotten. Like it's not just because you're South Asian you're getting these roles, it's because you're talented, but your South Asian heritage obviously seeps through. It's beautiful.
Wow.
I know we got serious. I didn't mean to.
No. It's just I've never been asked a question like that before in so many words. I mean, I think I was just, you mentioned about Nick. I think I was so young when I started that whole thing. You know, it was like almost 10 years ago. Yeah, and I think I was so inspired by in some ways, what he's done for his community as well, and for the overall general people of color. You know, with creating a show like Wild 'N Out, where being a cast member on that, you have so many different communities being represented there. And he's I think when I saw Nick, I just thought, oh, this guy is an entrepreneur. He's also thinking about the business of it. He's also a creative. He's a multi-hyphenate. He does so many different things. And I just thought, wow, it's so awesome when you can be like that, because then you can kind of you can create the future that you want to see. And so I was like, oh, if I could do something like that, it would be really incredible. And I think naturally, because I wasn't a perfect fit in a lot of the roles that I was auditioning for, that's what really led me to having to create those short films that I was directing, and I learned editing, and I made my living as an editor. Like I was doing whatever it took, you know what I mean, and willing to roll up the sleeves and be like, well, you know, I went to school for acting, but you know, it doesn't mean that I have to learn these other skills that my white friends just didn't have to do, right? Because that's not a world but I'm so grateful that now, and then being able to send those to Ravi, and that's what I did, is I was like, I don't know how to get better. And when I met Ravi, I was like, this is a guy who has been an inspiration for me since day one. Like, I had stalked you. I think I've told you at your birthday one time. I was like, I stalked you and Mira, and I knew about you guys. And then when I met you, I was like, oh wow, this is Ravi Kapoor. You know what I mean? Like, this is, you know, because you don't, I think for me, being a younger generation, you know, we just talked about trailblazers from different generations, and me wanting to be one. I was like, look at Ravi, like him and Mira, what they've accomplished, the fact that they have these really incredible careers, and they've really, in my eyes, really made it. You know, we never had that growing up, so I'm not sure if I'm completely answering your question, but I think now, being that, you know, Ravi asked me to co-produce it with him, this film as well, and to also act, and I feel very lucky that I'm kind of now part of the next generation, and I really hope that being able to go to different film festivals and meet younger than me, it's sort of weird because I've always been the young kid on the block, and now I'm like, oh, there are younger kids on the block now too. Yeah, getting old now. Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. And then to meet everybody, and I just hope that with this film and everything that I do, that it can be an inspiration for younger South Asian or non-South Asian people to kind of have that experience where they can go, wait, I can do it too, and I can do a lot of things and not just one thing.
I love that.
Long answer there.
No, I love it. Let's talk about the rest of this cast. Getting this wonderful cast together. How much fun was the casting process for you? And I feel like this must be like a fun family behind the scenes, like a tight group.
Yeah. I mean, a totally tight group.
Yeah.
Most of the people that we cast, we knew. We didn't really have an audition process at all. I think there was just a couple of characters that we auditioned. For sure, it was like reaching out to the people that were closest to you. So my wife plays Mira Simhan, who's a seasoned actress, plays his mom. My daughter Maya plays his cousin Nikki. My son Milan did some of the music as well. It was
It was a family experience.
It was totally family, and then reaching out to the next level of community as well. But yeah, I think pretty much all the actors either I or Venk had met or worked with, and we didn't want to do a casting process in a weird way. We didn't want to do a big round of auditions. Because we trusted these people. And I think when you're an actor, sometimes you get a bit burned out by having to constantly prove yourself, even though you've been doing it forever, as opposed to people going, I trust you, I know you're going to nail this, here you go, come along with this journey with us. So that was fun to be able to just go, here, do it. And they go, oh, okay, I don't have to audition? No, let's do it. So it was great.
Yeah.
How have you grown over the films as far as a director? How have you changed? How have you grown? Because we're starting to see, you know, I mean, we've been following you for a while, but, you know, like even something going from like Miss India America to this, how much a step in any direction, what have you gained from this process of making Four Samosas?
You know, in some ways, after Miss India America, I was then trying to get some bigger budget movies off the ground, and they never happened. We almost got them done, then didn't get it done, almost and didn't get it done. And before you know it, 6-7 years have passed before I'd made another feature. So in some ways, this was about me rediscovering my voice that connected a little bit to the shorts that I'd done even before Miss India America. And it was about reclaiming that sensibility that I felt in some ways I'd lost, and which is why it connects in with the Vinny character as well. He's kind of stuck and is trying to figure out what his voice is now, and which I very much kind of related to as a filmmaker, trying to go, hang on, what was that initial impulse? What were the things that really excited me? What were the things that I really loved to see? And so the big thing for me about this film was about making the film that I really wanted to see, as opposed to trying to make a film for an audience that might want to see it. And it became the touchstone in terms of making every single choice, going, what is the film I want to see? What's the film I want to see? And very selfish. And but in some ways, I feel like I found the most original voice by doing that, and something very specific. And it's been a lesson for me to try and continue to do that. I know it's always going to be difficult when you do have more budget and you have more people that are involved, and you have studios and you have production companies, that there's more notes, there's more people. But I'm determined to find a way, even within that, to maintain a lot of that artistic control on the process as well. And it doesn't mean it's uncollaborative. It just means when it comes to deciding this or that I'm able to make that choice.
I just to make a point, it's funny because we talk about Vinny and this character and this heist, and we're just talking now about how this experience was about really leaning into your voice. And I just remembered something. I remember when I read the script, I called you and I was like, hey, Ravi, like, did you, because we would have phone calls, you know, I very much consider Ravi a mentor, and I would call him just throughout the journey, and he was always so emotionally supportive in some ways about how difficult it is to be an artist, try to make a living at it. It's so hard. And when you sent me the script, I was like, you know, the character was written as Venk in the script, and I said, hey, Ravi, you know, did you like pull like from conversations that I've had with you about like, you know, what's going on with this character and feeling stuck and all that stuff? And I remember you said I think we're a lot more similar than you might think.
Yeah.
You know, and I just thought, I thought it was so cool that like you wrote a character, I think that was first and foremost probably, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but definitely personal to you and what you were going through and discovering your voice. And I, at the same time, was going through a very similar thing of feeling stuck and not able to kind of, not able to show the world in some ways what I know I can do, and feeling stuck. And so it's just funny that it kind of crossed over in the right way, I think, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Anyways.
Was this experience, cathartic's probably the wrong word, but like, going on what he's saying, was this a moment of zen? I don't know, like what have you gained from the accomplishment of making this film rather than just writing it?
Right.
Like, you've brought this to fruition. Tribeca, this is out. This is about to be released by IFC. It's about to be a big deal. I'm curious, is it?
Yeah. It's been really satisfying because I think even through the process of, you know, the edit and everything, I was still going, I don't think anybody else is going to like this film. And I'd call up Venk and I go, nobody's going to like this film. I like it, but I don't think anybody's going to like it. So it was very satisfying then to get it out into the world and going, oh, there are people who like what you like as well. And again, trusting in your voice and believing that there is an audience out there that you're going to connect with. And it may not be everybody, and anything is not everybody's cup of tea. You know, we all have things that we love and the other person hates, and you kind of just always have to take that on board and know that you can't please everybody, and you shouldn't try and please everybody. But it was definitely a revelation of going, oh, there are people like you in the world. What
maybe films or filmmakers helped inspire wanting to accomplish this? I mean, the quirky nature of it, I think of stuff. I mean, I know you mentioned Napoleon Dynamite, and I totally see that. But is there any other films, any other filmmakers that kind of, I'm going to steal a little bit from here and here, you know?
I mean, there's quite a few influences, and like I love Delicatessen as a film that I love, and Amelie is gorgeous, and I think they're films which are heightened, kind of like our film as well. There's a theatricality about them. I love Buster Keaton, and I love the silence as well, and there's definitely some moments like there's a whole sequence where they do a diamond exchange, and it's shot very wide, and it's kind of slapstick in some ways, and that there's a very, very definitely a kind of Keaton-esque kind of quality to some of that stuff, and then Wes Anderson is a gorgeous filmmaker. What's amazing with these filmmakers on their movies after their first or second ones, they have massive budgets for their production design, and they become production design heavy. Obviously, with this scale of filmmaking, which is more of a lo-fi film, we was trying to figure out how do you do that without the resources as well. What are the things that can still kind of hint at it and give you a sense of that theatricality and almost like a circus quality to them, but without the cash.
You said earlier heightened when you were talking about Delicatessen. I love the element of the one character needing to get a green card. My family's Israeli. I know exactly that story. I'm sure many people that have watched this film will know exactly that. How important was it to have that element? Because I do think that lifts it way more than just, this is not just a comedy to me. I like that heightened element to the added story.
Right. Yeah, things like the Sonal Shah's character of Paru, who's trying to get a green card, it's really interesting because you're putting in very culturally specific things about that community. There are people in America who are stuck in limbo. They're in limbo in terms of what their status is, their work status. They've gotten here and now they've lost their employment and they might have to go back, and it becomes this cycle where they can't get their paperwork sorted out. What was important for me was to have that element in there, but for it not to be about that. It's just, in some ways, it's kind of background. It's something that everybody in that community hears the stories about as well. So it was kind of, I love the fact that with all these characters, they're all outsiders in one way or another. They're not in the mainstream of this world. And again, that person who's their immigration status has put them in that place where am I here? Am I not here? Am I only going to be allowed to live here? Am I not going to be allowed to live here? That's another way of being an outsider as well. So, and she's great in it as well. Sonal kind of really nails that quality of her.
Yeah, she's urgent.
That's one way to put it.
Urgent.
Yeah.
You said you wanted to make a heist film. How much fun did you get to do this? Because it's entertaining as hell what goes on. I don't know if it's the greatest heist, but it's certainly fun to watch it. Creating that group of scenes, how much did you have kind of knowing that you were going to go this route, or the long, like the outward shot of wanting to show the chaos? I'm curious. How much fun was it?
I mean, it was a massive amount of fun, and again, because we didn't have all the bells and whistles in some ways, we had to be super creative and really.
Your angle choices are amazing.
Yeah, and because we couldn't show too much in some ways, so we had to leave a lot of it to the imagination of the audience. Yeah. So you'd have to let them imagine what was happening to this safe or not happening to the safe, and then come back and see the lack of results. But it was but what was interesting as well, I did finding in the edit as well, trying to find the rhythm of that scene was really that was one of the things that took a bit of time for us as well, really finding out how much time do we have to do this section of the film with the heist as well, because often in a heist film that becomes the biggest kind of part of it. For us, it was a real sense as we were working it going, there's a different way to go with this. It had to be treated in a different way than a normal heist film.
So we haven't been able to have the audience see it here yet. It plays tomorrow or tonight.
It played yesterday.
Wait. What is today? Friday?
Today is
Friday.
Okay, so I'd love to know what the audience thought of the film. Let's go with that then. And in comparison to Tribeca's audience too, because it's a very different audience.
Yeah, sure. No, it's been really interesting. I mean, I think the reception has been really lovely. Actually, I think what's been really cool is we've played so far at a couple South Asian film festivals as well, and Tribeca I think was largely a South Asian, not completely, but they're definitely, I think, majority of the audience was South Asian. So this, in some ways, being our first experience with people who aren't South Asian, there was an interesting question in the Q&A about, are there any elements of the Indian culture that you need to know in order to be able to enjoy the film. And what I thought was interesting was, there are certain moments in your answer that you gave, but that ultimately not really. Like, most of it is about the circumstances and the heist element and finding your crew and knowing what it's like to have lost someone and trying to get them back, are all those universal elements that I think is what the audience was able to key in, so that a largely non-South Asian audience came away loving the film.
Why pick Tallgrass? What made you motivated to put that into you could have gone so many different places. What attracted you to Tallgrass?
I've just heard great things about Tallgrass. This is the first time that I've been to Tallgrass, and my understanding of the film festival, and it's turned out to be true, is that it's a real filmmakers' place to come, and they look after you, and which is really nice. And they give you I think there's a warmth to this film festival, and I think it's always top down with any filmmaking or with any film festival. The people that are kind of running the show, their atmosphere kind of filters down all the way through. And my sense is with everybody that's running this film festival and is involved in it, is that there's just a real warmth, and there's a love of film and there's a love of people, and that's always the best combination. And so Tallgrass has kind of lived up to all those expectations and the things that I'd heard about it too. And I'd love the idea that it's just the catchphrase, or whatever you want to call it, is stubbornly independent, and that definitely fits in with For Samosas. Yeah. This is an independent movie through and through. Yeah. I think a lot of movies these days, they're called independent films, and they go for independent awards and everything, but there's still really studio movies which are in the millions of budgets, And
millions of budgets and millions of dollars.
Millions of budgets of dollars, and millions of people.
Exactly.
Whereas, our film really is truly an independent movie, and I think it's independent, a stubbornly independent movie.
Well, that goes to who's gonna put this film out there. IFC. I think it's a perfect spot. What was that negotiation process? How much were you excited about what IFC is hoping to do with this film? I feel like they're holding this to make it a big deal.
When we had our call with them, our initial call where they were kind of pitching themselves to us and our other producers and the team, I think first of all, they saw it at Tribeca, and they were there in the audience. And I think with a comedy film like ours, it's better in a movie theater. It's better when you're sharing it with other people, if not in a movie theater, because the laughs hit harder, the jokes are it's just there. And they really resonated with the film and the voice of the film, and kind of what Ravi was going for with this. And they ultimately saw it as a film that could expand to many different communities and audiences because of the nature of it. And I think that's always was our intention, was that it wasn't just going to be a film for just a small group of people. Whereas I think that audience, the South Asian audience, would really connect to it and they would appreciate it, but that it can expand beyond. And they just really got that. And they said all the right things, and the process working with them so far has been amazing, and we're so excited to release it through them.
So cool. So I've got to ask, I'm always fascinated by craft foods on sets. Because of where you guys got to shoot a portion of this film, where'd you get your craft services?
Well, we did on the last day of filming. I mean, our craft services was pretty standard. I think it was standard craft services. You got your gum and your crackers and your cookies and your... I'm sure we did samosas the first day as like a gift to the crew.
Yeah, it was. because it was interesting because it was during COVID as well. We had to do that whole thing of like individually wrapping everything. So we couldn't do as much Indian food as we wanted to, but we definitely did it. And like there was one day where a guy, and it's again talking about the community of this, getting the community of Artesia involved. We were shooting in all of their stores. There was just some random guy that was hanging around the sari store that we were filming in, who always hangs around that sari store. He's going, I'm going to buy you all samosas. And it's like he went next door to the cafe shop, the samosa shop, and he bought the whole crew samosas so we had samosas for snacks. And it was from this random guy that was just happy to have us working in Artesia. And on the final day of shooting, we got the most amazing curry, which was very spicy, but amazing. So we were always, I remember when we were also doing the recce's and we were looking at location scouting, there was a lot of Indian food going on there. It was like, okay, I think it's time for a break. And we'd hit the next Bel Puri house or the next chaat house or the next Indian restaurant. And that was, but it was all for the art.
Yes, always.
The food is, I don't know if you know, but Indian food's, not great. It's one of the worst.
No,
terrible. No flavor at all.
No flavor.
No. It's purely practical.
Yeah, exactly. It's just sustenance.
Yes,
really.
That's all it is.
I've got a weird food question. Let's just keep talking food. I'm curious. Back home in London, Indian food compared to America. What are your thoughts, feelings? Because I've been to England. With Israeli, I prefer my shawarma and my Indian food from over there. But also Dallas has got great Indian food, so it's a little different. But I'm curious for you, over these decades, do you miss back home, or have you found your spots?
We had our spot in LA, and it was a real hole in the wall, but we'd followed the chef from another hole in the wall to his own hole in the wall. and it's a hole in the wall you don't go and eat, you just order out of, because it's not fancy, but the food is just like spot on. And then now he's closed down, so me and my family, we're in limbo right now. We're in curry limbo, where we're trying to find the new spot, and it's very discombobulating. We don't feel settled in ourselves until we realign with a new curry place. England, the curry is amazing, and there's a lot more of it. I think that's why everybody elevates each other. And it's been a while since I've really spent a long time there, but I'm hearing that the cuisine is getting even more kind of dynamic in England and London. There's a couple of spots in LA now. We were talking about Badmash. There's like a restaurant in LA which kind of does a little bit more of a fusion street food kind of stuff, which is really good. But it's still hard in LA in comparison to England.
Just a quick tip. If the restaurant, like 9 times out of 10, if the restaurant has India in the title or Taj Mahal in the title, run away. Basically, if it's like India's kitchen, probably not going to be that great. Taj Mahal, India food, no, just don't.
Well, talking about titles, what's funny is when I first moved to America, the first job I got was at an Indian restaurant. I was working as a waiter at a restaurant whose title was in England was like a slur word for us brown people. It was like,
no way, really?
Yeah, because in England, one of the things that when people were trying to run you down, they go, "Oi, Gangadin." And of course, the first job I got in America is at a restaurant called Gangadin. So it took me a while to ease myself into working there.
The way we pick our Indian restaurants, Dev and I love going to Indian restaurants, and especially in like really southern places, it's really fun. If the count of white people to darker people is more, we don't go there. It has to feel like we're the only white people there. Otherwise, it's not right. Okay, let's get back to the film more. As far as, I love that someone asked if you had to have knowledge of like an American place, even though it is multicultural there. I'm curious as far as do you feel like you have to explain things in this film? When I watched it, I got all the humor, I thought.
No, I think we really trusted that the audience would be okay, that we didn't we wouldn't have to do any over explaining, and the audience would follow along and they'd be okay. I think maybe a South Asian audience might get some other levels, but I don't think it's going to stop somebody who's not South Asian kind of going along with it and knowing everything that they need to know. And I think we live in a time now as well, especially what streaming has done. It's kind of opened up so many cultures to everybody, and I think we're just a lot more educated in being able to live within a different culture for a while as we're watching things and get it as well. So I don't think in some ways you do need to know anything about the South Asian culture to watch this film.
As far as what's down the line for this project, obviously we'll wait for the distribution, but I'm curious, are you writing at anything all now? I mean, do you have your next project? Do you have your next project? Like what's the next step for you outside of this process?
Yeah, I think it's...
that you can share. I know some of the material might not be shared.
No, definitely. I mean, I think at the end of the day, what I want to do is to tell stories like this. And, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I always say that I was a South Asian guy that never grew up around South Asian people. So I think was just in a lot of different communities, you know what I mean? And being of a darker kind of complexion, I think was actually a boon, because it kind of let me kind of be more a part of other communities as well. They felt like I really was, also I felt very much included in different communities. So I want to try to do that with the projects I do in the future, is to bring different communities and, from whatever those backgrounds might be, and to find the similarities, the commonalities between everyone, and tell a story that is unapologetic, that doesn't need to explain anything, but because at the end of the day, the universal elements of character and trying to improve ourselves, or whether that is a heist or a horror or whatever, or a genre or no genre, to kind of ground it in something that is universal and also celebrates as many communities as possible. So that's the kind of stuff I want to be making, and the stuff I'm working on right now.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I have projects. I have scripts that I have that I would love to do, stories that I want to tell. Some of them are set here in the South Asian American community. There's something I really want to do in Liverpool as well, which is my hometown in England. And it's a way for me to kind of reconnect with that city and think about who I was in that city as a South Asian in Liverpool, as a Scouser, but not quite being a Scouser, because I was a second generation immigrant. And I look at my nephews now in that city and how they're able to really just take ownership of being from that city and being a Liverpudlian. And I felt for me, and that there was always a little bit of a barrier, and I'm jealous of what they have. And so hopefully with this film, if we get to make it set in Liverpool, it'll be a chance for me to take ownership of the city and my history there as well.
I'm going by the color of your socks, but are you a proper Liverpool fan, or do you go blue?
I'm a Liverpool fan. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just make sure you're not Everton and you're lying to all of us.
No. Yeah, that's not really a proper soccer club, is it?
They haven't been for a while, no.
And I'm saying soccer just for our American friends.
We get it.
So there's no confusion.
And it's a World Cup year, too, so it's going to be a fun soccer year. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. And
so do you root for England, America? Obviously not India, they're not in the World Cup.
Yeah. I mean, there is a joke, the reason why India's never in the World Cup is because every time they get a corner, they build a store on it. Which is still one of my favorite jokes.
Amazing.
Corner shop. It's because England have played America a couple of times, and I find.
And now we're in the same group.
We're in the same group, yeah. No, are you?
Yeah,
because I know you're with Wales.
And Wales.
What?
Yeah, England, Wales, and Iran.
Oh God, I didn't.
There's like
England
so many because England, U.S. 1950s and multiple times. And,
right.
I mean, Iran. That's a whole nother political story there with that battle. But Wales was the third.
I get conflicted. I really do feel conflicted with the soccer and the national teams. Part of me is like rooting for England to finally do well, but then I always love it when the underdog wins. Mm-hmm. And so part of me is like is going to root for Wales, and it's going to root for America to kind of slay the big boys. And part of me will be excited. then part of me will be sad. And but I think it's such a fascinating thing, especially for second generation immigrants, the whole thing about national sports teams. And it's always been a big issue in England as well. When India or Pakistan cricket team come to play,
right,
you see all these second, third generations rooting for India and Pakistan, and the English are going, what the hell, you live here, you're supposed to be English, why aren't you rooting for England? And I think in some ways it brings up some really interesting, deep things about ownership of a place, and how much do you allow yourself to own it, how much does the community allow you to own it, where do this whole idea of allegiance as well, what are the things that really connect us to a place? Is it culture? Is it land? Is it geography? So I think that all that stuff's amazing. It's such ripe material. Who do you support? Then it's like big question.
I definitely don't want to tell you because I'm a Spurs fan, so not too much. At least I'm not an Everton fan, but
that's true. But you guys are doing good this year.
We do best year maybe ever so far.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you a big football fan? I'm guessing Atlanta. That's basketball country.
Yeah, basketball country, and definitely not on the American football after that terrible loss.
Did you just give up on them or something?
And well, here's the thing. I think I never grew up around sports in the kind of fandom that is around sports being so community oriented. I in some ways looked at individuals and said, I really like what this person is about. I'm gonna latch on to their particular journey, whatever team that they're on, or and it wasn't about the geography for me. It's interesting that we talk about, what is it that ties you to a team or to anything, and for me it's been much more individualistic in terms of, and I don't know if that's because my family didn't really watch sports, or if it's just being American in some sense, or I don't know if it's a non-American thing. I feel like most of my American friends have that team, and I will say I always found it to be quite strange when people would get so emotionally riled up and then start screaming at a TV when you truly have no effect over what's going to happen on the screen. Whether you're doing a fantasy or not, I just thought, wow, people get really, really into it. And for me, that's a strange experience.
Yeah, and I think that's storytelling. Mm-hmm. I think sports at its best is great storytelling, and that's why people do get emotionally connected to it, because they're invested in the story of it. And it's always great storytelling.
So your next film is a soccer-based film about a family opening up a curry shop on the corner.
Actually, the Liverpool script is it's a boxing film.
Really?
So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Is there boxing in your past?
No, I've just always been fascinated by boxing and always liked it, and the idea of a British Asian boxer from specifically the Hindu community rather than the Pakistani Muslim community, which is, they do have a culture in England of some brilliant fighters, whereas the Hindus haven't really quite taken it on board as much. It's always fascinated about that outlier quality of that kind of character doing that.
Well, I'm hooked. This sounds fascinating. Yeah. Wow. So another tangent question. Your history of the mustache is pretty freaking epic. Do you have a favorite mustache over the years, or that clean-cut version of you? Pretty sexy fella, buddy.
The mustache has been, I think it's been like a year and a half now I've been rocking the mustache. And you know what it is? I wanted to do more comedy as an actor, and there's nothing funnier than a mustache. Nobody takes you seriously when you have a mustache.
Well, you grow a mean, kick-ass mustache.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's weird. It has these gray things at the end.
I remember the full black too.
Yeah, and I had I think the beard I was rocking that for a little bit. But the beard's intense, whereas a mustache is stupid. And I want to do more stupid.
He says that while looking to a guy with no mustache and a beard. So I love. I'm curious as far as your rap career. I loved that we don't see too much rapping in this. Do you? I'm not going to ask you to rap, but I'm curious if you had a rap style or a rap persona, personally, not the Vinny character.
Right.
Thank you. That's what I'm curious about.
God, it's funny. I think there's a song at the end of the film that that Ravi and I co-wrote together, and that I perform and
It's great, by the way.
Thank you.
In the titles.
Yeah.
I watched all the way through.
Yeah. Oh, right. So you know how it is. God, that's so interesting. I mean, I have to. Being from Atlanta, I was always really fascinated with rappers and the personality, and being on a show like Wild 'N Out, and just I love music, and I think growing up, I always listened to music that came from Black people because you can dance to it, you know. And I was always like, I love dancing, you know. I dance in the film as well. So I wonder. It's you know, it was interesting when we were recording that song. I think I thought I was going to go into it and it was going to be a more hard, you know, and I think maybe you even wanted that. I'm not exactly sure, but then it kind of ended up being more like soft and more like heartfelt and a little bit, you know,
It's very happy and uplifting.
It's very happy and uplifting, and not very like I'm cool and I'm doing my rap and this and that and whatever. And so I wonder if that's the thing to lean into a little bit is that, and I think
Happy rapping.
happy rapping, or rapping that's got a little bit more of like, you know, some like emotional, like, you know, something to tell, or I love underdog stories, and I love songs that kind of just get you excited about that get you through that next day. I think I listen to a lot of grinding music, you know what I mean? Just keep it going. So I don't know, maybe there's a style there where we take that musical style of a song like that, and then something a little happy and heartfelt, and maybe that's what I'll do. Who knows?
Since you've already written for him, obviously, with this film, is there any other ideas that you're hoping to touch with him? Or because y'all are now producing partners, has that created a different connection?
Yeah, I mean, definitely created a different connection. I know we're going to work together again in the future. These next two, it's like they're different characters and different kind of stories, but I know I'm gonna.
He doesn't look like your Hindu boxer.
I don't. It's the Scouse accent that I think might be a difficult one
cover.
to pull
Yeah,
off.
I liked it.
As good as an actor he is, even the actors in England, I look at them and the ones that are not specifically from like Liverpool, I know that there's going to be a little bit of a struggle, you know, just finding the right actor, and understands that experience as well of being a British Asian, which is different from being an American South Asian. I don't know in terms of what it's going to be with Venk, but I know I'm going to be sitting there one day and I'll go, Venk, and then I'll write something for him.
I hope so. No, I think as well, just the fact that Ravi asked me to produce this with him as a co-producer, I think hopefully there's other ways we can also continue to work together, and we've had those conversations. So I know this might have been the first, but certainly won't be the last.
Well, guys, it's been such a pleasure. I mean, I could keep asking you random questions, but I don't want to keep you here. But I just want to thank you for bringing the film to Tallgrass. I definitely think it was such a big deal when I saw that it was there. I mean, you can see by the press releases, it's an important film at this festival, and it's not always a film or type of film that we get here at this festival. So thank you for bringing it here. Thank you for coming, and I hoped that we get to see this boxing movie soon. And Venk, just keep dancing.
Oh yeah, sure. Oh, everything I do, I'm going to be dancing. Trust me.
You and Sam Rockwell. That's your whole career.
I'm in. Let's do it. Let's team up.
No, but thank you as well. Thank you for having us here at Tallgrass. It has been incredible, and I think our film does it fits here. Again, we talked about IFC being the perfect kind of distribution company for our film. I think Tallgrass is the perfect film festival for our film as well.